A creation of Jason Aaron and Esed Ribic, Firehair made her debut in the first issue of Marvel Legacy, which was released back in September 2017. If we look at this ancient mutant, one who happens to be the founding member of the first prehistoric Avengers team, there's a lot to explore. After all, Firehair, or Lady Phoenix as she is often addressed, also happens to be the very first human to become the host of the Prime Universal Force of Life, or in simpler terms, the Phoenix Force. This brings us to the main content of today's video, where we will be delving deeper into the origins of this bright, red-haired, powerful Marvel Comics character. Let's find out all about Firehair. Now, just before we go into our video, we have a very small request. If you like our content, then please support us by subscribing to the channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Now let's begin. Who is Firehair? Firehair, as an infant, was rejected and dumped by her parents and even her tribe as well for possessing unusual red hair. She was left at the sacrificial burnt place, a charred, cold and permanently raised clearing that the xenophobic tribe often resorted to in order to sacrifice anyone who happened to be different. Now, when we say different, it can be someone born a different shade, a different size, born with too many fingers on one hand, born with eyes that didn't work the usual way, and the list goes on. But in short, people who didn't fit the standard norms of the tribe, well, they were left in the wretched, blackened, burnt place to die. Firehair was one of these, and she would have been prey to a gathering of hungry buzzards. Like the ill-fated rest, had a pack of wolves not intervened and rescued her. The wolves raised her as their own for years, and she soon became a member of the wolf pack. However, Firehair strangely found herself returning to the burnt place every now and then to chase the giant buzzards that lurked around. In time, Firehair turned 10, and during one of her usual visits to the burnt place, she came across a human baby with one eye, abandoned in the wasteland. There she also chanced upon a floating man who spoke to her using the power of telepathy and moved around using the ability of psychokinesis. Of course, Firehair was initially afraid of the man and almost gave in to fear when she decided to follow him out of intrigue. In due course, Firehair gradually became friends with the floating man and began to call him Highwalker. She learned from Highwalker how he had taken it upon himself to rescue everyone that was left at the burnt place, sheltering them and raising them as well. Sensing a kindred spirit in Highwalker, she found herself making the hardest choice and leaving her wolf family to join Highwalker's Tribe Without Fear, a group of early mutants, all of whom he had rescued from the burnt place and thereby became his pupils. In this new tribe, everyone was different, and each of them capable of doing amazing things. It is fitting to say that Firehair's mutant abilities awakened as well, and it was around the same time that the neighbouring xenophobic tribes ended up discovering the early mutants and came to attack them. Highwalker attempted to calm the humans down in order to buy some time for the early mutant group and also aid them in escaping. However, Firehair was engulfed in her newly awakened psychic abilities, and she was completely overwhelmed by the hatred and rage coming from the human tribe. With Highwalker distracted, he dropped his guard in turn in order to calm down Firehair, and this resulted in his death. Firehair passed out, and the remaining members of the Tribe Without Fear gave into rage, ambushing the humans. This resulted in the death of all the mutants except for Firehair, who blamed herself entirely for the death of her tribe as well as her mentor. So much so, it prompted her to return to the burnt place to sacrifice herself to the buzzards. But the Phoenix Force clearly had different plans for Firehair. As she laid down awaiting death, the cosmic entity, one that is known to predate darkness as well as the universe, was drawn to Firehair, lured by her untapped mutant powers. The nexus of all psionic energy bonded with Firehair, with the sole purpose of using the host to fulfill its intended purpose, burning planets to ash. In all likelihood, Firehair would have given in to the rage, having felt justified in doing so given her recent loss, her hunger for revenge, and let's not disregard the cruelty of the world that she had been born into. However, it was the intervention of the very wolf that had rescued her from the buzzards that stopped this. After being unexpectedly calmed by the wolf, Firehair made up her mind to use her powers for good. Sometime later, an adult and highly powerful Firehair was seen coming up to the mighty Asgardian god Odin and asking him to join her and help form a heroic team to protect the world from super beings like herself and Odin. Is she the real mother of Thor, the true origin of Thor Odinson? For a better understanding of this, we will briefly touch upon the first issue of Jason Aaron's Avengers 1 million BC. Firehair's determination to form a heroic team with Odin led her to assemble the members of the very first Avengers team, one that was known as Avengers 1 million BC. The team comprised of the demigod sorcerer Agamotto, the demonically empowered Ghost Rider, Iron Fist, Starbrand and Black Panther of that time, besides Firehair, aka Phoenix, and Odin, jointly fighting against cosmic threats. This one-shot issue begins with our team of superheroes defeating Lofe, the king of the frost giants of Jotunheim, at the cost of Black Panther's life. And of course, let's not disregard Lofe swearing a blood debt against all gods and man-beasts of Midgard. Naturally, this has Phoenix mourning the death of Black Panther, but alas, we can't really say the same thing for our lover boy Odin. Odin's only mission was apparently making passionate advances towards Phoenix. Add to this the growing cynicism he had towards his mortal allies. It's no wonder that this leads to Phoenix lashing out at Odin and thereby earning her wrath in the process. Post Black Panther's burial, the team is seen going their separate ways. Time passed by, but the next instance that all the heroes were gathered together was when Odin assembled them to announce his previously unannounced wedding with Phoenix, much to the latter's complete shock. Fair to say that Odin's hubris drove Phoenix further away from him, and in fact, she was so sickened by Odin that she even left Earth, planning never to return. Had she not been so protective of the inhabitants of this planet, we are pretty sure that she would never have returned. Odin's ill-planned attempt at marriage fractured his relationship with the rest of the team members too, and it's only fair to say that they all again went their separate ways. Many years later, the team, minus Phoenix, was gathered once more. This time it was to witness the birth of Thor, the son of Odin and Mother Earth Gaia. Gaia had just given birth to Thor when the revenge-seeking Lofe made an appearance and managed to nick the newborn with his sword, which resulted in Thor freezing up. Call it perhaps motherly instinct, and we will elaborate in a minute. Phoenix was then seen making an appearance, much to everyone's surprise. A flashback shows how Phoenix had orchestrated the birth of Thor this entire time. She was the one to convince Gaia to give Odin a chance and give birth to his child in the process. As for Gaia, she was exceedingly generous, enough to state to Phoenix that the latter will be just as much of a mother as she herself would be to their son, and the rest, as you know, is history. Coming back to the current events, Phoenix grabs hold of the lifeless Thor, flew him away from everybody else, and resorting to her powers, heated the magic frost out of Thor and brought her son back to life. A still piqued Odin asked Phoenix to hand back his child and told her to stay away from his family, but Phoenix attempted to stay back, wanting to see Thor grow up, but by the end of the day, his cries were too much, even for her to bear, and she chose to disappear. Marvelous story arc of Firehair. One of the first epic battles in the primitive Avengers canon was against the highly powerful celestial Zgreb, and unknown to the group, Zgreb, also known as the Fallen, was corrupted by the insect-like Horde. It was a tough battle because even with Firehair striking the Fallen with flames that were powerful enough to melt supernovas, this attack didn't have the slightest bit of impact on him. The Fallen barely even had a scratch, in fact. But having said that, the fight eventually worked itself in favour of the Avengers, and they were able to defeat the corrupted cosmic god by having him sealed away underground for almost 1,000,000 years. The Avengers afterwards went on to face several threats: the extra-dimensional demon Mephisto, time-travelling would-be tyrants, and let's not forget, a young Thanos made an appearance too. There also came a time when Firehair stopped being the host to the Phoenix Force, and her consciousness was preserved in the white-hot room. Over the centuries, her consciousness would end up exerting a certain amount of influence over the Phoenix Force, causing it to seek out hosts from Earth, particularly red-haired women possessing psionic powers. This is how we've had Jean Grey, Rachel Summers and Hope Summers being avatars of the Phoenix Force. A major revelation took place when the Phoenix Force came to Earth to set up a tournament in order to find out who would become the next avatar. With Thor confronting the Phoenix Force, the latter manifested as Firehair and told him the truth about his parentage, that it was Firehair, in fact, who was Thor's real mother, and the only reason he was told that Gaia was his birth mother was to ensure that Thor would always defend Earth. Of course, this came as a shock to Thor, but he eventually became protective of Firehair when the Avengers attempted to defeat the Phoenix Force. Firehair, as the Phoenix Force, was able to bid goodbye to her son, and also told him that she would hopefully be able to tell his entire birth story someday in the future. After merging with the Phoenix Force and letting it do what it came to do in the first place, a new host was chosen, Maya Lopez. How powerful is Firehair? Born a mutant, we're looking at somebody possessing powerful abilities like telepathy and psychokinesis, amongst other psionic powers. Having the ability to use her mind to affect matter in any form that she chooses, and being able to establish mental dominance with her mind does give one a fair idea of how powerful Firehair was. As the host of the Phoenix Force, Firehair possessed the ability of cosmic pyrokinesis, generating flames which were powerful enough to melt a supernova. Yes, we know we've mentioned it before, but I think it's worth mentioning again. It gets us quite excited every time. And then, of course, there's Firehair's power of telepathy that made her capable of communicating telepathically with others just by reading their minds. And let's not forget the power of flight, and that too at an immense speed. In short, it's fitting to say that after Firehair became Lady Phoenix, all her impressive mutant abilities were boosted to near limitless levels. Marvelous verdict. And that is that for today, and we come to the end of our video. What do you think of this particular defender from the dawn of time? Who do you fancy more, Firehair as Lady Phoenix? We'd love to know, so put your thoughts in the comments down below, and of course if you enjoyed the video then please leave a thumbs up and stay tuned as well, because we promise we'll be back with more exciting content. Until then, goodbye and thanks for watching, and have a great one.